Hello, everyone. I am Mark Levin. The number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. May I ask you a question? Do you think we provoked the attack on 9/11 on this country? Do you think we have enemies in this world that would love nothing more than to destroy us or murder as many Americans as possible, regardless of what we, regardless of what we do? Well, there's a candidate running in the Republican primary, and I want you Ron Paul people to listen to me, because I think many of you do not understand what you're supporting. There's a candidate running in the Republican primary, Ron Paul, who is completely out of sync with Goldwater conservatism, with Ronald Reagan conservatism, with conservatism of any sort. Oh, I know they'll keep going back to the 1950s and pick a senator out and tell you that he's Mr. Conservative, when in fact he wanted to be president and he couldn't. But the fact of the matter is, we have a lot of enemies in this world, and not of our making. And I am tired of this hate America first crap that we hear from Code Pink, that we hear from the left-wingers in this country, and that we hear from Ron Paul. You know, folks, there's a difference between our society and our government. Oh, yes, there is. But it doesn't mean when the government acts to actually protect our society from terrorist attacks that the government is wrong. The government can be wrong in a hell of a lot of things, in a hell of a lot of areas, and it is. And I've written books about it, and I've talked about it behind this microphone, and I'm litigating against it, unlike Ron Paul. But all of that said, we have brave men and women in uniform who are fighting for this country. And they're not doing it illegally. They're not doing it unconstitutionally. They're not doing it because they want to provoke the enemy. We have brave men and women, most of whom are young, volunteering for our armed services with their eyes wide open to protect this country, not to conquer the world. And I am sick and tired of hearing this guy on the stage and elsewhere, through interviews, treated with kid gloves, when he makes it sound like we're the old Soviet Union or Red China. The American people are a benevolent people. We do not conquer territory for the sake of conquering territory. If we did, we'd already own Europe, all of it. If we wanted to conquer, we would have kicked ass in the Middle East, and we already own all the oil fields, including in Saudi Arabia. And I could go on and on. We have a magnificent military with magnificent young men and women, many of whom have died in the past decade, not in pointless wars, not because of neocons, not because we're seeking to conquer the world, but because they're trying to defend us. Ron Paul's foreign policy is unpatriotic and it's un-American. Whether it comes out of his mouth or the mouth of Occupy Wall Streeters, out of the mouth of socialists, communists, appeasers in this country, left-wing Democrats, anti-war activists, or whatever you want to call them. It's the same damn message. And the fact that so many people find it alluring is troubling to me. And I am not a neocon. These little bastards run around with their website. Oh, there's the neocon Levin. Yes. And what else do they say about Levin? Or Goldberg? Or Stein? All those names. What else do they say? Google the man. Stupid Central is LouRockwell.com. Go take a look. Over the years, who have they trashed? Antonin Scalia, Tom Sowell, Clarence Thomas, Ronald Reagan, Milton Friedman. We just don't get it, we neocons. Even Reason Magazine, a libertarian magazine, and a superb one at that, and their website, has dealt with this Rockwell and this clan of goons. Then he steps in and he pretends that he started the Tea Party movement. We all were around. Many of you are Tea Party activists. You weren't rallying because of Ron Paul, and most of you haven't rallied to Ron Paul. Now, I believe in a strong defense, the number one military on the face of the earth. Not to conquer the world, but to protect our interest and our allies. I don't compare Israel to Botswana. Israel is our ally. And we have other allies like Taiwan. Taiwan is looking right down the barrel. It sees the massive military buildup of Red China. And what's Ron Paul's answer? Blow them off. Ignore them. This isn't conservatism in any respect. In any respect. So here we have Ron Paul in the Politico. A man who may well run third party. A man who ran third party once before. A man who wants a brokered convention, he says. Yeah, so many of the backbenchers. Trying to help them, to give them some courage. They don't want to touch this. Maybe I can help them along the way here. Politico. Ames, Iowa. Ron Paul isn't backing down from his position that the U.S. has provoked terrorists through foreign military occupation. Who talks like this? Military occupation. And that officials tried to capitalize on 9/11 attacks. Quote, I said, quote, think of what happened after 9/11. The minute before there was any assessment, there was glee in the administration because now we can invade Iraq. And so the war drums beat, Paul said Thursday night, before a packed room of more than 1,000 students and supporters. This is the crap he's feeding college students. That's exactly what they're doing now with Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't remember it that way, do you? We were all here. Was there glee on George W. Bush's face? Was there glee on Dick Cheney's face? Was there glee on anybody in the United States military's face? Was there glee on anybody's face in Congress? This is a crackpot. Glee that we were attacked as an excuse to go into Iraq? You can disagree with the war in Iraq. But this is sick stuff. Sick. And he says this crap all the time, but usually he's a little more careful when the Klieg lights are on and during the debates to try and persuade you he's not the crackpot that he is. Extremists have taken over, and they're the ones who run the foreign policy and have convinced us to go along with all these wars. Let me think about this. Afghanistan. Why did we go to war with Afghanistan, ladies and gentlemen? We know why we went to war in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda was there. They struck us from there. The Taliban was protecting them from there. Bin Laden was there. Is that an extremist position to attack that nation? And Iraq, was that extremist too? We had a joint resolution of Congress. The overwhelming majority of Democrats and Republicans voted for it. Liberal, conservative, and in between. Was that the extremists who did that? A joint resolution of Congress. Read the Constitution. There is no exact wording for a declaration of war in the Constitution. I've explained this before and I've written it. A joint resolution of Congress authorizing war and funding war is a constitutional act. And if Ron Paul believes George Bush lied to get us into Iraq, then he should have introduced articles of impeachment in the House of Representatives. But the little weasel didn't do that. Instead, he goes around poisoning the well and smearing people. And I'm supposed to believe he's a conservative? Well, Mark, he's good on the Federal Reserve. Excuse me. That's not good enough. And I'm not done. More Ron Paul. He said of the possibility that Iran has a nuclear weapon is not true at all. Doesn't mean they might not want a nuclear weapon. Okay, so ignore evidence. Just ignore it. Then he gets his philosophy right, right? No other country, Paul said, is capable of attacking the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, were you around on 9/11? I think most of us were, right? Not only is another country capable of attacking the United States, it's capable of funding terrorists who attack the United States. How many foreign countries can threaten us right now, Paul asked sarcastically. How many are likely to invade us or drop a bomb on us? I can't imagine. Not invade us or drop a bomb on us. Pick us to pieces. With modern warfare, genius. Paul again called for an end of all sanctions currently imposed on Cuba, which he has said only makes Cubans dislike Americans. How does he know? Did he go there and take a poll? Did he take a survey? Ron Paul know that for sure? How? I think the Cubans hate Castro more than they hate us. What do you think about that, Ron Paul? So Ron Paul is on Fox News today. See, he's figured out how to get on Fox News. Say dumbass things, which are consistent with his thinking, and then people want to talk to him. I mean, 3,000 fellow Americans died on 9/11. Thousands of American men and women fighting the enemy have died. And this guy blames us. I think it's disrespectful to the families who've lost loved ones in these wars. I think it's disrespectful to the men and women in uniform today. I think it's disrespectful to all the people in our Defense Department and who work and who are in the armed services who are trying to protect this nation. It's disrespectful to the people who work in our national intelligence agencies. And it's disrespectful to local law enforcement. I mean, is this the guy we want carrying the Republican conservative banner when he's not a Republican or a conservative? When he threatens to run third party and thereby elect Obama? When its foreign policy is no different, as best I can tell, than George McGovern's? Have we changed? Or is he a crackpot?